I've been meaning to get this video out since like last week. Unfortunately, I procrastinate a lot, even for stuff I actually want to do. It really doesn't help that Sonic Racing Crosswords came out recently, and I'm loving it. I'm already in Legend 9. Anyways, I know this video is about Min Min, but I want to briefly discuss some things from my previous video. Skip to this part of the video on screen if you don't really care. First off, I was told by someone that Lucina and Chrom's Fire Emblem is the Awakened Falchion. Turns out I was misinformed. It's still the Binding Shield. My bad, guys. And as for Ike, his Fire Emblem is a medallion that summons the Goddess of Chaos from his games. Let's make that his up tilt or something, I don't know, we're not adding that, come on. The other thing I want to discuss is about Corrin. I already know people were biased against Corrin for many years, but seeing the comments I got on my video made it feel like you guys were being paid to hate Corrin or something. I get not liking him, but he is an important and unique character for representing Fire Emblem. I saw many people agree that Byleth was a more important representative than Corrin. However, I stated in my video that I didn't want bias to affect my placements. People's arguments for Byleth being more important than Corrin are mostly based on Byleth's game being more popular than Corrin's game. That is a bias. Mass bias. On top of that, most fans speculate that the name Fire Emblem comes from the importance of dragons. I don't think that you can substantially argue that Byleth is more important than Corrin in representing the unique aspects of Fire Emblem. Or at least, I haven't seen a good argument, besides the fact that Byleth is more popular and has a bunch of weapons, like, okay. Also, all throughout that video, I talked about characters' potential. Corrin still has a lot of potential. That dragon form needs to be playable. Byleth doesn't have as much potential as Corrin and Ramen do. I kinda get that most people's argument here is that Byleth is more important than Corrin because Byleth's game is the most popular in the franchise at the moment. I myself think that Byleth will resonate with people better due to this game's popularity, but that doesn't make Byleth a unique fighter, nor a unique representation for the franchise. Rather, it makes him a better face for the money to roll in. Despite my logical arguments for Corrin being slightly more important than Byleth, I feel like logic won't win over the mass bias that the Smash community has made against Corrin. So I made a second list. The first list is for people who care more about interesting potential. The second list is for people who care more about popularity. However, if Sakurai was more open to adding characters outside of just main protagonists, then Tiki would probably be a good replacement over Corrin. Turns out that people arguing for Tiki's inclusion has actually partially won me over. Well done. One of my arguments against this though is mainly the fact that Corrin is more versatile than Tiki. I mean, he wields a chainsaw sword, which is pretty cool. He can turn fully into a dragon just like Tiki can, and he has all the partial transformation stuff, which is also pretty cool. And to my knowledge, no one else in the entire franchise has this ability, main protagonist or not. I mean, his kid has it, but we're not adding Kana to Smash, we're not doing that, never doing it. I do like Corrin, but I wouldn't be too sad to see him go in the next Smash game if that means we could play as a full dragon. However, I would kind of prefer if we could actually play as Corrin's dragon form. It's insane that wasn't done in Smash Ultimate. Just for clarity though, in case anyone in the comments gets any ideas, I am not trying to say that Byleth doesn't deserve a spot in Smash. He does. I just think he's not as good at representing Fire Emblem as Corrin is. I don't want to spend too long on that topic though, so let's move on to the main topic of the video. What's wrong with Min Min in Smash? Well, her long arms, of course. Video's over, guys. Go away now. You're still here? Well, I suppose the problem is more complex than just long arms. Actually, I think she's got several bigger issues. They all stem from a lot of her mechanics being inaccurate to the way the arms works. Before I discuss the several issues with Min Min, have you seen this guy before? His name is Dhalsim. He was in Street Fighter 2, pretty much the OG Street Fighter since Street Fighter 1 could pretty much be seen as a tech demo. I mean, if you like that game, congrats, get a silver star because you don't deserve a gold star for liking this game. Dhalsim gets a lot of hate because of his long limbs and simplistic playstyle. But looking back, he's become a bit of a staple in the Street Fighter franchise. And while other fighting games don't tend to have characters with long limbs like him, they do have characters with simplistic, long-reaching attacks, which isn't too far off from Dhalsim. But there's something Dhalsim has that these characters don't. His long-reaching attacks can be damaged. Once you understand this, suddenly Dhalsim isn't as scary as these other zoners. He's still annoying and even frustrating to fight, but you've got something to work with now. With Dhalsim, you can either try to get in and punch him in the face, or you can attack his long limbs if they whiff. Min Min also has long limbs, but you can't attack her long limbs if they whiff. Well, that's okay, because typically, zoners like Dhalsim aren't very strong. Their attacks have insane reach and are fairly fast, so to balance that out, they don't deal too much damage. If we apply the risk-reward factor, these characters have so little risk with their attacks that they should only have so little reward. But if you've ever seen Min Min in Smash, would you call her attacks weak? I sure wouldn't. Min Min is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It looks like you should be able to repel her attacks or attack her limbs, but none of that's possible. She just has these two extended melee hitboxes that she can throw out constantly. One of them even has its own projectile. These attacks all have insane reach, they're all fairly fast, they're all deadly, and none of them can be repelled or attacked back in any way. Not even counters work against them. Why is Min Min designed this way? Well, because she costs money to play. Come on, guys. And also, I'm fully convinced Sakurai hasn't actually sat down and played ARMS. You might be able to say that ARMS isn't fun, and that's your opinion, but regardless of my opinion, you have to agree that if you're going to adapt a character from their game into your own game, you must understand that character and their game first before you even attempt to put them in your own game. And before anyone jumps to Sakurai's defense, Roy, Greninja, and Corrin's games weren't even released while Sakurai was developing these characters. He most likely just got to see some cool animations in the beta build for these games. But I don't think he got a full understanding of who he's actually adapting into these games.
But wait, maybe Min Min is like this in ARMS too.
No, get out of it. Min Min and the other ARMS characters are designed specifically to prevent what Sakurai's done in Smash. First, let's talk about Min Min's limbs being attacked. ARMS has 3 arm weights: light, average, and heavy. If 2 arms of the same weight collide, they'll clank and drop to the floor and then return to the wielder. If one arm collides with an arm lighter than itself, the heavier arm will overpower it. The lighter arm will drop to the floor, whilst the heavier arm will continue its course and probably hit its opponent. Simple stuff. This mechanic is here for a few reasons. One being immersion, another being to make sure that players can defend themselves without needing to shield. But a more important reason is that it forces people to play more strategically. Do I dodge this attack or do I shield it? Or do I power through this attack and surprise my opponent? Can my arm power through this opponent's arm? If not, I should probably try to bait it out and attack around it. And if I throw out my own attack, the opponent might try to power through it themselves. These are things that will probably go through your head while playing ARMS at even a mid-level. Not in Smash. If Min Min throws her attacks at you, your thought process will be shield it or dodge it. No thoughts about blocking it with your own attack. Even attempting to dodge it is ridiculously hard in this game compared to ARMS. There's no thoughts about powering through the arm to disable it for a brief moment so you can rush in. And using counter is a terrible decision. Now let's move on to the next problem. Besides the fact that attacking Min Min's fist is useless, you also can't attack the long limbs themselves, like you can against Dhalsim. This isn't possible in ARMS neither, but instead, attacking your opponent's shoulder will damage their arm. Damage their arm enough, and it will drop to the floor, their arm becoming completely unusable for a short period of time. It doesn't even specifically have to be their shoulder. Attacking someone whilst their arm is extended is sometimes good enough. Now onto our third problem. If you've been paying attention to the ARMS clips versus the Smash clips, you should have noticed a difference in the attacks themselves. No, I'm not talking about the fact that ARMS are 3D and Smash is 2D. I'm talking about how much time those arms are extended for. In Smash, Min Min's attacks retract just about as quickly as they get sent out. They extend for half a second, then retract in half a second. In ARMS, her attacks extend for some time, and then take about half a second to retract. This is a deliberate balancing technique to leave Min Min exposed if she misses her attacks. This is especially obvious with the dragon and the Ram. In ARMS, the dragon fires a laser each time it's sent out. The laser lasts for some time and she misses, and it ends quickly if the laser hits an opponent. This leaves a good amount of time to attack her as she misses. In Smash, Min Min can just choose to send out the dragon without firing the laser at all, so she's hardly vulnerable if she misses. And to make matters worse, if she does choose to fire the laser, it's a quick little shot before returning to her. And then there's Ram. In ARMS, Ram goes around the arena, taking a while to actually reach the opponent. This leaves Min Min exposed for a good amount of time. In Smash, it looks like this. This is just sickening. What even prompted Sakurai to do this? For those who don't get it, Ram is not an attack that you typically throw right at your opponent. Typically, it goes around them to hit at an unexpected angle. The smash equivalent would probably be an attack that gets sent up, then hits the opponent from above. Or maybe it goes down and hits the opponent from below. I messed up Megawatt because it wasn't changed in any significant way like Dragon and Ram were, it just retreats faster, that's all, because of course she costs money, come on. As we can see through my examples, Smash seems to be intentionally making it so that Min is hardly exposed during her attacks, while ARMS very clearly makes it so you're exposed during your attacks. I'd call this a betrayal of the ARMS mechanics. On to my fourth issue. In ARMS, if Min could land a grab, her left arm would power up. Her left arm stayed power up forever, until she either gets hit by her opponent's charged attack, or she gets knocked down to the ground, or her left arm gets disabled by someone attacking it repeatedly. She's supposed to look for a good opportunity to land a grab, then once her left arm powers up, she can play more aggressively. But also, she has to be careful she doesn't lose her power up. In Smash, these limitations are different. First off, her arm power up does not stay powered up forever. It has a time limit of about 25 seconds. That's great, but it goes downhill from here. Being knocked down to the ground in ARMS is different from being knocked to the ground in Smash. In ARMS, getting knocked to the ground after taking enough knockback is unavoidable, and it causes Min to lose her power up. In Smash, getting knocked to the ground is avoidable by pressing the shield button. Let me repeat this. In ARMS, losing her power up can happen if she takes enough knockback. In Smash, losing her power up can happen if she takes enough knockback and misses her tech. Why does she have this extra safety net? Instead, Min should lose her attack by taking enough knockback, just like in ARMS. In Smash, taking enough knockback would send her into the tumble state. Being sent tumbling away should cause her to lose her power up, so she doesn't have that extra safety net. Also in ARMS, again, disabling her left arm will disable the power up. You guys already know that disabling ARMS isn't a thing in Smash, and honestly that sucks. Now for my fifth, and potentially my biggest issue with Min in this game. In ARMS, if you throw out an attack, Min's fists can curve in whatever horizontal direction you'd like. But moving Min herself won't cause the entire arm to move much. This is especially obvious with the dragon. When she throws that out, after it reaches its destination, it will lock in place and fire a laser. In Smash, she can do this. What am I even looking at here? Unlike in ARMS, Min can create a wall of attacks by simply jumping and attacking. This isn't even slightly possible in ARMS, and it's the main reason I don't think Sakurai actually understands what he's adapting here. ARMS was specifically designed to prevent players from creating walls of attacks, by making sure that when Min throws out an attack, only her fist and the dragon laser can be curved. But Sakurai doesn't seem to have understood that, and instead, he's allowed the entire arm to move with Min, no matter what type of movement she's doing at the time. And this includes the dragon laser. If ARMS had a bigger fanbase, they would probably be going feral over the decision Sakurai made here. I mean, I only started playing ARMS recently, and I immediately noticed that the ARMS devs wanted to restrict attacks from being too oppressive, but some of the most important of these restrictions have been lifted in Smash. I think if Min was portrayed more accurately to the way the ARMS devs handled their game, Min would be still hated, just like Dhalsim. But the hate wouldn't be so intense. So, what should be changed? Before we move on to my little thinking exercise, I want to summarize my 5 problems first though. My first problem is that attacking Min's arms whilst you're in her range is pointless for most characters, and doing so will more than likely just end up getting you hit. My second problem is that you can't disable her attacks by attacking her whilst her limbs are extended. My third problem is that her attacks don't stay extended for long enough. Her attacks are too low risk for how easy it is to wall out opponents to their death in this game. My fourth problem is that being sent tumbling doesn't remove her power up. And my fifth problem is that her extended arms move with her while she's attacking, allowing her to create obnoxious walls of attacks. So first, the clanking with her moves needs to be sorted out. Clanking in Smash Ultimate is generally unreliable, but it's more important against characters with ridiculously long melee attacks. I also think that characters with swords need their clanking sorted out, but that's a whole different issue. I think that there should be a hitbox in front of her attacks that doesn't deal damage, but it's specifically designed for clanking. That way, if you attack her attack, you're more likely to just stop her arm without getting hit by the actual damaging hitbox. But if you don't hit this hitbox, then you get hurt. Second, if you attack Min Min whilst an arm is extended, or even if your attack just closely grazes her, that extended arm should take a little bit of damage. The arms should have their own invisible HP, just like Luma does, and once they take enough damage, they'll be unusable for a short amount of time. Yes, this means that if both of Min Min's arms are extended and you attack her directly, or your attack just grazes by her, both of her arms will take damage and potentially be disabled. If either one of Min Min's arms have been completely disabled, she should be unable to shield and she should move slower. To balance this out, I think that her arms shouldn't be disabled for too long. Third, her attacks need to stay extended for a bit longer. Now, do I think her attack should stay extended in Smash for the exact same amount of time they do in ARMS? No, I don't think it should be one-to-one. These are different types of games after all, but I do think the attacks need to stay extended for just a bit longer to make her more vulnerable if she misses her attacks. Fourth, if Min Min is sent tumbling or hit by Smash attack at all, she should lose her power-up. And fifth, her arms must not be able to move with her as she's attacking with it. It should travel along its course and return to her when it's done. If you think that these 5 nerfs are too much and will ruin the character, I'd like to mention a few things. First off, her powered up arm in Smash seems a bit smaller than it does in ARMS. I've mentioned Min Min powering up her left arm a few times, and I'm sure some of you must be thinking that Min Min players don't usually bother powering up their left arm anyway, so why bother putting any attention to that in this video? Well, that's kind of the problem with the whole power up thing. Min Min is already a fairly low risk character, so giving her a reward for deliberately making a risky move is a good choice in my eyes. Her powered up arm should be considerably bigger than it is in Smash. It doesn't need to be huge though. Also, remove the time limit on the power up. With all these nerfs I'm suggesting, she should at least get a big buff to her power up, incentivizing Min Min players to try powering up more often. And secondly, zoners like this one in particular shouldn't really be that good anyways. They're always characters that newer players will really struggle against, but more experienced players will learn how to deal with. These characters are very annoying to deal with and, quite frankly, very annoying to watch. Characters that are frustrating to deal with can kill viewer and player engagement. Well, that's the end of my little rant. This video in particular and the previous video were 2 videos that I've really wanted to get out for a long time, but I've kind of just been procrastinating the whole making YouTube discussion video thingy. However, I would like to make more videos. I just gotta figure out what else I need to make a video about. I know. I have the perfect video idea. Which 20 Fire Emblem characters should we add to the new Smash game? Okay, I'm kidding. I won't actually do that. Or will I? Maybe. Depends. I don't know. Will it make me money? Definitely not. But it would be really funny. Okay, but if we do add 20 more Fire Emblem characters to Smash, I still hope they remove Lucina.